After a crazy week of college football, we got some risers, we got some fallers. Welcome to the Stock Report. Let's talk about who did well and who did not so well this week in college football when it pertains to the 2025 NFL Draft. And to start my Stock Report, well, it's going to be Drew Allar. None other than Drew Allar himself. This cat had a solid game against UCLA, throwing for a touchdown. He had the quarterback sneak for another touchdown, but he's playing really good football this year. He's playing within the offense. He's still. I mean, you look at him on the throw-to-throw basis. Is he accurate? He's accurate enough. And it's not to say his accuracy is like terrible. It's not, but like the ball placement certainly can be better. But in terms of, this is a dude that's built different at 6'5", 243. He's got some running ability at that size. He's got a big arm at this size. And not enough people are talking about him as a potential quarterback one in this class, in my opinion. He is a top 50 prospect for me thus far through 6 weeks of the college football season. And I mean, with Allar, I think the anticipation's gotten so much better this year. He's worked so well within that offense. Mind you, they brought over Kansas's offensive coordinator here, and he's done wonders for the Penn State offense. And we're starting to see the big plays when it comes to Drew Allar. We're starting to see the big plays, and I'm loving it. Listen, we're in this draft class when it comes to quarterback position. It's kind of okay, there's a lot of guys that have traits that are worth developing, but no one guy probably should start from the get-go. And if we're going to talk about guys that are like probably have to sit for a year, you're going to draft them because of their traits, Drew Allar has to be near the top of that list with guys like Jalen Milroe and Cam Ward. He really deserves to be near the top of that list. So stock up. Big game this week for him against USC. Let's keep it rolling with Landon Jackson, edge out of Arkansas, coming in at a rare 6'7", 281. Rare size for an edge defender, but he's finally turning up the heat. He's starting to hit home on pass rush. Like, he had a great week against Tennessee. 7 pressures, 3 defensive stops, had a sack, had a win rate of 19.4%. You typically, if we're talking about edge prospects that could go on day 1, on day 2, you want that pass rush win rate to be around 18% or higher. Like, hey, if you're going to go in the first, you probably want it in that 20%. He's hovering right around it right now currently. And he's been hot the last couple of weeks. He has been hot, but I still think he's very much a raw prospect, a unpolished prospect, probably the best way to put it. I think the physicality's gotten a little bit better for him this year, but it's still got a ways to go. He is tall at 6'7", so he's not going to win the leverage game every down. That's something you're just going to have to live with. He is a bit of a tweener at that size. He does have some injury red flags, whether it's the ACL, the ankle, but he brings such good versatility at that size. He's got a pretty good toolbox of pass rush moves. And the athleticism at that size makes you believe, oh yeah, we could keep this guy out there on the edge. He's been tearing it up for Arkansas the past couple of weeks. If he just continues to go stronger, then yeah, man, maybe we talk about him as someone that could sneak into the first round. I'm still a little ways from that, but I recognize, hey, I don't mind him in the top 50. He kind of gives me some Keon White vibes, if you will. Everybody loves the NFL draft, and I know you want to be familiar with every potential prospect that your team may draft, so I got good news for you. My draft guide is available for purchase. It is good throughout the entire draft cycle, and it updates through the season regularly. You'll get my current evals and rankings on hundreds of different players with player backgrounds and analytics. It also contains combine and pro day numbers, as well as my notes from the Senior and Shrine Bowl. You can purchase it for a one-time payment of $30 on PayPal, Venmo, and now I have the Cash App follow the link in the description, and be sure to include your email because it is a Google spreadsheet. That is how I share it with you. So please don't make me hunt down your email. Just don't do it. Anywho, it's a great purchase and it's a great way to support the channel. Next, I want to talk about, let me get the pronunciation out. Donovan Ezeiruaku. I'll get the pronunciation down by the end of the draft process. Out of Boston College, coming in at 6'2", 241. He is currently listed at 247, but still, he's a little undersized, lacks a little bit of that girth. That's kind of the big talking point with him. Play strength, like he's not going to win with power, and he's very much a finesse pass rusher. And you could see there are times where he just gets stymied in the passing game, where he just gets stuck in engagement. But he is someone that has been relentless. He had 9 pressures this past week, had 6 defensive stops, a win rate of 27.6%, firmly in that day 2 discussion for me. Most definitely got around to his tape this past week, and I don't think he's like the most explosive guy. Like, he's got an all right first step, but at his size, like, I want something a little bit better. But where he wins is with his suddenness, his smoothness, as he just does a really good job of setting up his initial pass rush and then using his hands to orchestrate secondary moves, whether it's like a club rip, dip inside. But like he just does a really good job of that, and he loves the inside move. Like, he loves countering to the inside. And he's got the smoothness to do that. He's got some plays where it just looks like he's doing like a basketball Euro step. And I think a lot of that maybe stems just from the track background. This guy did triple jump. Have you seen those guys fly? Have you seen the triple jump when it comes to track? Yeah, you got to have light feet. You got to have subtle feet. He's got that. And on top of that, he plays with a big motor, and he actually plays really well against the run, despite that size. It's just he's not going to be someone you really expect to set the edge because he lacks that power profile. But man, Donovan's a dude that's like, this edge class has got some players on day 2, man. It's got some players on day 2. I talked about Mike Green out of Marshall weeks ago. But like, if you're looking for some guys that's got some tools, man, this class got some guys with tools, and with like, there's a large variety of different body types as well. Like, we're talking like Jalen Walker, Mike Green, Josiah Stewart. You got Landon Jackson, Ashton Gelate. You got freaking Mikael Williams, LJ Overton. You got a ton of guys. So you got a ton of variety in terms of what you could get body type and from a skill set standpoint. So had to talk about him this week. But then we're going to the Ole Miss game. Walter freaking Nolan. He's starting to emerge in a defensive interior class that's like, yeah, we like a lot of the prospects in this class, but is anyone really, really catching your eye as a pass rusher? Walter Nolan is. Big game against South Carolina. 7 pressures, 4 defensive stops, 2 sacks, a win rate of 25%. Utterly insane. 6'4", up to 305. He was initially listed at 290. Up to that 305 makes a world of difference. And you should be probably talking about him maybe at the back end of the first round at this juncture. Like, Walter Nolan was a highly, highly sought out recruit, 5-star recruit. At A&M, man, they worked him a lot off the edge. There was Shamar Turner. And now he's working primarily on the inside. And he's wreaking havoc, man. He's got a powerful, powerful frame. He's well built. He's got really good overall athleticism. The technique still got a ways to come along. But now, hey, he's starting to produce when it comes to numbers. The contact balance could be a little bit better. It's been better this year. Walter Nolan legitimately, I think, is going to be a first-round prospect. No more, like, he entered the year as a top 50 prospect for me. I think now he's at maybe in the back end of that first round discussions where we would talk about guys like maybe Talik Williams, Deion Walker, you got Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Those guys that we talk about as potential like first rounders. I think Walter Nolan has now stepped up and put his foot in front of all those other guys. Great week from Nolan, man. Really, really great week. And he's only I think he's a true junior too. So I'm talking about a very young guy. He'd be 21 at the beginning of his rookie season. Next, Wyatt Milum, offensive tackle out of West Virginia. Listen, this is a tackle class that is lacking. It just is. You got Kelvin Banks, you got Will Campbell, and then it's like, is there another first-round tackle? There's Arianti Urshi, who, okay, I'm gonna come. He hasn't had like a super impressive year. Like you love the length, you love the tools when it comes to Urshi, but Michigan game was a bit up and down. He's probably more mid to back end of the first round, and mid might be pushing it. Some people have talked about Cameron Williams out of Texas. This is his first year as a true starter. I'm going to go back and watch the Texas offensive line this week because there's a lot of guys I want to watch from that Texas offensive line. But Milum, I don't think he's not a first rounder. He could be a top 100 guy, but I think there's just some stuff missing from his game. Like, he's got solid movement skills, like good mover, definitely built for the outside zone blocking scheme of today's NFL. But he's just someone that kind of lacks elite traits. He's someone that tips his head constantly on contact. It's just a bad habit, and I'd like to see him stop. But he has been so consistent for West Virginia the last few years. And this past game against Oklahoma State, a relatively good defense there. Allowed no pressures, no sacks on 26 pass rushing snaps or pass defending snaps. I think in terms of like technique, he's well put together. It's just nothing like has me like going cuckoo bonkers about him, right? It just doesn't. And I mean, again, this is a tackle class that's begging. It's begging someone to step up. And maybe more so you're going to be looking day two. Some of these guys, I could see him going like top 50 just because we saw edge talent there at the back end of the second, early third in this past class where it was like, or this past draft class where it was like, well, there's guys that we want, but the class really falls off at a point. So let's just go ahead and overdraft these guys. And that's fine. I'm not saying Milum's going to be someone that ends up getting overdrafted, which he could. Probably overdrafted compared to where I have him on my board. But he's more well put together than a lot of those guys that I thought went in like the late second, early third portion of last year's draft, like Caden Wallace and DJ Glaze. I think Milum's way more put together than a couple of those guys. So good week from Milum, man. Keep producing, and I just think he's more of this, like, he might not be a high end, like he's going to be our tackle for the next 10 years, and he's just going to be dominating. He's going to be like an all-pro. I don't think that's him. I just don't think that's him. I think he's like okay, we can insert him, and he's going to be maybe like the third, worst case scenario, fourth best player on our offensive line, and we're okay with that. We can live with that. I think that's more so what he projects, at least to me, in the NFL. And then I want to stick with offensive tackle Jack Nelson, and honestly, I could put his teammate up here as well in Riley Malman. The Wisconsin tackles, I think, are pretty legit, man. They're going to be talked about in that like third round area, I think. With Nelson, I think being a little more impressive in my opinion, just because he's got this ideal frame at 6'7", 307. He's very flexible. He fires out of his stance, quick feet, functional strength, not like overwhelming power, but you're not going to see him get like tossed off his, you're just not going to see him get tossed. And you're generally not going to see him get movement as a run blocker, but in an outside zone blocking scheme, I think he can really pay dividends for you. He's got very active hands during pass rushes. But there are times where he is a bit off balance, which, hey, that's going to send off like red flags for me just because, hey, Evan Neal, you were a guy that played off balance, and I fell in love with you, and now I'm eating crow. So I'm going to be a little less high on those guys who can't just stay off the ground. Nelson, for him, it just feels like there's a little bit of too much fire. I guess you could say too much fire, too much gusto. And he ends up just getting a little out of control. With 6'7", yeah, you're always going to worry about the leverage. But Jack Nelson's a legit prospect, a legit guy that's kind of stepping up in this class. He had allowed no pressures, no sacks this past week against Purdue. I know it's Purdue, but Purdue's got an okay defensive line. It was nonetheless a pretty good showing. He's played really well this whole year. He has started games since 2021. He's played left tackle. He's played right guard. He's played both sides of the offensive line. So, like, I'm down to get in on the Jack Nelson train as a top 100 prospect potentially. So, I had to give love to some of the tackles in this class because this tackle class does feel a little bit light. Next, we're talking Boise State. We're talking Utah State. It ain't Ashton Jeanty. I don't need to talk about Ashton Jeanty. I'll talk about him when we talk about our middle of the season rankings. We know Ashton Jeanty is him. We know he is him. I want to talk about Jalen Royals because this was kind of his breakout game this season after coming off a great year last year. And I figure a lot of people are unfamiliar with Royals. If you didn't check out my wide receiver rankings before the season, you're probably unfamiliar with Royals. He made my top 15 wide receivers in that video. But Royals coming in at 6 foot, 195. It's a fine size for a wide receiver. But he had a big game against Boise State. Granted, they were playing from behind a lot of the game, so there was a lot of passing. But he is the offense there for Utah State. Had 9 receptions for 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 forced missed tackles. You'll love to see it, and you love that this guy's story. Like, he was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. Went to Georgia Military College, played 11 games there, and then he flew out to Utah State for a tryout. And after he tried out with Utah State, they immediately offered him a scholarship. Didn't really play much his first year at Utah State. Last year was the breakout year where he was a first team All Mountain West. And this year it was a bit more slow going because Utah State's offense has kind of struggled. But here we are, massive breakout game for the season. And when it comes to Royals, he just does a lot of things good. Like, the speed is really good with Royals. It's a lot better than you expect. Like, I watch him and I'm just like, oh, wow. Oh, wow, man. Like, you look smooth. You don't necessarily look like you're running fast. But everyone else looks like they've been slowed down. And that's kind of freaky, man. He's pretty explosive in that regard. He's been recorded to run a 4.30 in the 40. So, and the explosiveness is there. He had a 130-inch broad jump for Utah at that tryout, which was a big reason why they were like, yeah, get this guy on the squad. But he's also really good at the contested catch. Might not be the tallest guy. I don't even think he's going to be 6 foot. I think he might be more in that like 5'10", 5'11" area. We'll see. But he plays the ball like so stinking well, man. He goes up, he high points the football. He had a 73.9% contested catch rate last year. So you love to see it, man. And he's very well put together as a route runner. Like, he was legitimately getting separation. He gets separation all year. He just needs a good quarterback to get him the football. So if you're unfamiliar with familiar with the Royals, get familiar with them. You're going to hear his name a lot during the offseason draft process. Again, if you haven't heard of him now, or if this is your first time hearing about him, get in on it, man. Royals is hella good. Speaking of hella good, Cameron Skattebo, running back out of Arizona State. I actually talked about him a little bit last year, and we're talking firmly probably late day 3 player if drafted at all. He's coming in at 5'10", 225 pounds. He's not the fastest guy, but he's just a football player. He is a good football player. He was initially played for Sacramento State prior to his time here at Arizona State. Last year was his first year at Arizona State, and it was kind of a coming out party for him because it was like, man, this guy, he's hella good, man. Hella good. And he's strong. He's physical. He's sneaky good as a pass catcher. He even could throw the football. That's fun. That's real fun. And he's just, again, the definition of, oh, no, this guy just good football player. He's going to do it on special teams. He doesn't mind doing the gritty pass protection work. Had a big game against Kansas, though Kansas not playing well this year. 26 carries for 183 yards, a tutty. He had 19 receiving yards as well. Might lack ideal athletic traits and can be a bit impatient as a runner, as he'll get the football. He just he's no nonsense. He wants to get going north and south really quickly. But like, kind of feels, let's just call it what it is. Kind of feels like the Carson Steele of this running back class in particular. So I wanted to give him a little bit of shine, especially coming off a big week against Kansas. And then I'm going to stick at the running back position. Talk about Jordan James, running back out of Oregon, 5'10", 205 pounds. Still firmly got him as an early day 3 pick. But good game against Michigan State, 24 carries for 167 yards and a touchdown. Had a 4-yard reception in there as well. But like when it comes to Jordan James, man, like he plays low, he plays nimble, he's got excellent vision. But he kind of falls into this, for being a little undersized, he isn't like this end-all be-all athlete. He's just not. So he's very much in the Bucky Irvin mold, which, hey, that's kind of paying dividends for the Buccaneers right now. As Bucky Irvin, he's playing. He's got split volume with Rachaad White at this juncture for the Buccaneers. So if you're undersized but not the best athlete, you can make it in the NFL. Again, look at freaking Kylan Williams, another guy. If your vision's that good, you can make it. And James, I think, can. He's you definitely need to talk about this cat. And like, his running style is violent, man. It is. He may be undersized, but he doesn't mind eating contact. And his broken tackle, like his forced missed tackle rate is pretty darn good. It was good last year. It's good this year. Like Jordan James, like, I know the running back class is stacked, so these guys are going to get pushed down the board. But don't sleep on him. I don't think he's going to test out well, and I just kind of want to throw that out there. It might be like similar to what we saw from Bucky Irvin, but I think this is someone that plays with better vision and better patience than Bucky Irvin did. And he's got a little more violence to him when it comes to him being a ball carrier. But with Bucky Irvin, man, he was someone that was like just hard to take off his feet because he ran so low to the ground. With James, he's seeking you out and he's trying to put you in the ground. I love that. He does have limited reps in the passing game, which that's not going to help his cause. But that's kind of what made like Kyren Williams, where it was like, oh, he's so good in the passing game though. So hopefully that's maybe something we're going to see later on in the year. I don't know. I don't think the offense just doesn't work that way. But I had to talk about Jordan James. I had to talk about running backs, man. This is a good running back class. And then last but not least, let's go back to the quarterback position. Jaxson Dart. He is a divisive prospect. You either love him or you hate him. That's kind of where I think people are at with him. And I kind of fall on the in-between. I think he is maybe better. He is Matt Corral with better size and probably a better arm. Which I mean, I think he's firmly in the top 100 discussion, could sneak into the top 75, but he's not going to be in that quarterback one discussion. And listen, like if you're not new to the channel, you know I loved Jaxson Dart going into the year last year. But I'm going to call a spade, man. Like he feels like a good quarterback, not great quarterback. Someone that is very much just because of the offense he's entrenched in, and that Lane Kiffin, RPO heavy offense, first read, gone. Is there a check down close to the line of scrimmage? Okay, maybe I'm going to run it. That's a lot of the offense, man. And you see him taking a lot of shots downfield as his adjusted completion percentage is kind of low this year because he takes a lot of shots downfield. And that's kind of what the offense dictates. That's what the offense asks him to do. I do think his ball placement is a little bit better than that, but you are going to worry about his accuracy on the throw bases. You are going to have to like work him from the ground up after being in this offense for so long. That can he function in anything more than an RPO heavy scheme? I think that's a fair question to have. I really do when it comes to Jaxson Dart. And guys, I love Jaxson Dart. I think he's got a plus arm. I think he's got a really quick release. I think he's got actually a good feel for pressure. Like when he has to get out of dodge, he'll get out of dodge. He's a bit slippery as an athlete. He really is. I mean, I might hate that the dude doesn't like to slide. There's too much of that dog in him, too much of that competitor in him, but he needs to do a better job of protecting his body. He really does. But in this class where it's like, man, quarterback one's such a toss-up, I don't think he's in that discussion, but he's firmly in that day two discussion. Like this is better Matt Corral. I think this is way better Matt Corral. And I think that probably warrants like a third round pick. But yeah, it wasn't like the cleanest week this week for Jaxson Dart. He lost Trey Harris early in that game. Early downs, he was definitely taking a lot of shots that just didn't fall his way. But ended up going, 14 for 27 for 284 yards. He had 52 rushing yards. Didn't have a touchdown in this game. No touchdown for him. But, yeah, Jaxson Dart, I'm a fan. I don't want to pretend like I'm not, because I am. Truly, truly am. But let me know who are some of your favorite prospects in this class. Who broke your heart or caused your heart to grow 10 times this past week? Who impressed you? Who didn't? Let me know in the comment section below. That's it for the video. And of course, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.